Hello, welcome back to the second part of the violet China painting demo. Now this has been fired and we are going to start with the main lady, the prima donna, which is right here, this violet. So the first thing we wanted to do is to bring the attention to this area. So we are going to shade around those petals all the way around that. And you are going to see how that brings her out. The eye is usually going to go to your lightest and darkest contrast. So by doing this, we are really showing some contrast there. And we can still see the other violets because our China paints are transparent. So you get like a thin veil of color around. All right, so there it is. Now we're going to go on to the next violet, which is right here. So we're going to do the same thing to that violet, go around it to bring those petals out. At the same time, we are almost insinuating some petals in the background by using those strokes in the shape of petals. And you see I am painting towards me, long sweeping strokes. Okay, now there's another one over here, and the same thing goes for that one. We're going to frame. I like to use that word, frame, because it feels like you're putting a frame around something to make it, enhance it, to show it off. So now they all have a little more attention than they did before the shading, but not as much attention as the prima donna, which is this one here. That's the one that in the opera always gets the attention, the most attention. Okay, so now that we have that, if you noticed, automatically it so happened that when we were framing all these other flowers, violets, we also added some shading to this green leaves. So there's two of them, two leaves right there. So I am going to leave some of that violet in that area because it's a wonderful shadow color, violet. So we'll use it to insinuate that there's a shadow in here which is being cast by these petals from that pansy. Okay, so now we're gonna add some green. And we're not completely going to cover the whole violet leaf. We are just going to strive to add color, but also leave the shading in here, and at the same time show off the highlight. So we're doing a light, a medium, and a dark. So that's what this is here. Some of that color is being dragged into the middle, so it's like the vein emphasizing that vein right there of a leaf. Violet leaves are pretty large and they are heart-shaped. Okay, so there's that leaf. Now we're going to do the next one, which should be a little bit darker because it's also a cast shadow of that leaf and also of the violet. It's a shadow being cast. So at least in this area, it should be a little bit darker than the rest. Okay, now I'm going to come out here on the outer edge and I'm going to add some more color there, some more green. Now this will be the second part to this violet mug, but we will be doing more to it. We're going to be adding more buds, violet buds, and also little highlight. Let's lift a little highlight here, and I want to come in here with a little bit of the warmth color and just add some yellow in that area. Now this yellow tends to tone down a little bit in the fire, which will probably end up being just right. Okay, now let's go back to the violets and the markings inside. So, going to go and shade that towards the center of the pansy. The violet. They are very similar. They're, I think, in the same families as the pansy, but they're just a little daintier, and the petals are longish and kind of thinner. I'm painting towards me. So I like to add maybe a little pink to the violet leaves just for interest. And we're also going to use that Kemper tool that we used to wipe out. So if you notice, the petals are going towards the center of the flower. And what I am moving is the piece so that you don't want to be doing this kind of thing because it's uncomfortable, and you want to be as comfortable as possible so that you can just relax, and that's when you do the best work. Make everything work in your favor. So you want your brushes to be in good condition. You want your paints to be mixed nice, no lumpies. You want the porcelain to be clean. Sometimes it looks clean, but we don't realize maybe it might have a little oil on it, or so I like to clean it with soap and water or alcohol. It's fine. It helps. All right, so now we are going to come in here and pull out that background, feather it out. That's a China painting term that we use. And walk it out like this. But if some of those petals look like, those brush strokes look like kind of random petals here and there, just leave them. Maybe just lift a little color here and there to make it look like there's a lot of other violets in the background. It's a nice, you know, those violets get around. Remember, they just go all over your garden if you let them. So now I am exerting more pressure, because when I do that, I lift color from certain areas that I want, which is the edges of the petals. So right here, I want this petal to show up a little more. See, so that's how I do it. You don't just wipe out with that Kemper tool, the wipeout tool. You can also use the corner of your brush to do it. Now I use the corner of the brush when I'm pulling color, and I also want to use that color for shading. Then I use the brush, because see, it pulls out, lifts some color up in here, but then that color that I just pulled out of there, it's going to be accumulated towards the center of the the violet. So right there. Okay, so now I really want to make sure that the centers of these back violets are very, very clean, because when we, probably on the next fire, we're going to put some yellow in there, and then the markings also on the pansy, because they also have a little face like the pansy does. Now, I think what I'm going to venture and do on this fire, on this demo, is I'm going to go ahead and add some yellow in there, just so you can see, kind of almost like a little preview of how we do this. But I do recommend, if you're just starting out, wait and do this part, this section, to the next fire, because it could get messy. Till it's already, everything's fired, then if you don't like the way that came out, it's no problem. Just do it over and over until you get the right markings, or the right center. Okay, so that is going to tone down a bit, so not to worry. All right, so we've got that. I love that combination, violet and yellow. It's so satisfying. It's across the color wheel, those two colors, yellow and violet. It's very satisfying to the eye to see that. It cools and it warms. All right, so now let's do some down here. Let's get some violets. So we're gonna do that by adding some violet color in there, like this. All the way up against, and you can touch it a little bit. Nothing's gonna happen. Remember, those are already fired in for the most part. We just added some extra color. So now it's a little safer. You're not gonna get rid of it if you touch it. Now I like to repeat the colors that I'm using in the flowers. I like to kind of repeat them a little bit in the background somewhere. And I can do that now, or I can do it on the next fire, but I think I am going to add a little bit of yellow in here, a little sunshine. All right, now over here, what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint another violet. Now that's the wet background, so I can, by doing, I can wipe out some petals. See, like it's like carving. Think of it as carving out some petals from the background. Now right here where it's dark, you carve out. Right here where it's light, you paint on. So it's all about contrast, light and contrast. So here's another one. And the one in the front is going to be right here. So I'm really having fun with this violet, this flower mugs that I'm doing. I'm doing a series. I don't know exactly how many flowers or what flowers I'm going to do, but I have a rose one, I have a pansy, I'm doing a violet. I just might do a poppies, some red poppies. What do you think? Let me know if you think that that's a good idea, or if you have suggestions for other flowers. I'm open for ideas. Something. All right, I think this is good for this demo. I don't want to go over too much overboard, but I'm going to make sure that I have that center wiped out and a little separation here in the petal. And I think that's going to be pretty good for this demo. And hopefully you'll come back and see the finished product next fire. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.